Hey guys, we're going to start talking on the air now. I want to welcome everybody to Vroom Vroom Vroom, the car rental blog, and we're going to talk to another family of travel bloggers today. This is different for us. We usually just talk to one person, but today we have We Chase Summer with us. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Um, we have the Morton family, which consists. You know what? I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. Go ahead.
I'm Hoda. What's your name?
Okay.
And Ali.
You guys are a picture perfect family. You are from the United States, like I am, which is kind of unusual for us too. We talk to a lot of people around the world, but it's not often that I get to interview someone from the United States. Guys, Kian and Hannah, I want to ask you a couple of things about traveling. Do you like to go on trips with your mom and dad?
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of fun?
Yes. Yes.
What's the most fun you ever had on a trip? Can I ask you first, Kian?
The country is Ireland.
He punched you in the eye. That's not fun at all. No.
Ireland.
Oh, the islands. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
I'm trying to say Ireland. Her favorite.
Ireland.
And
You
you
like Ireland. And you like New Zealand? Is that what you said?
and I like Sam.
Who's Sam?
Sam's dog
The dog on the farm. Where? In Ireland.
in Ireland.
Yeah.
You met a dog named Sam? Was he pretty? Was he big or small?
Big.
Was he a good dog?
Yes.
Did he have a job?
Yes.
What was Sam's job?
Okay.
Working on the farm, right?
Wow, that's pretty cool for a dog to have a job. A lot of dogs just sit around, but he was busy, wasn't he? That's cool. So, have you guys went anywhere in the last couple of months? Did you go to a place recently?
That's from New Zealand. Where else did we go?
Iceland.
Iceland. Where else?
Wow.
London.
England. Where else? Let me see.
Thailand.
Thailand. Where else did we go? Where was Shima? Australia.
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Wow, you guys have been all over the world almost. That's really cool. And you're not very old at all. Can you tell me how old you are?
How old are you, Hannah?
3.
How old are you?
And you've been to all those places, guys. That's really special. That is really cool. Hey, it was really nice to meet you. I'm going to say bye to you guys, and I'm going to talk to Mom and Dad some more, okay?
Bye.
Have fun, guys.
And they're off.
Oh, man, they're such great kids. That's awesome. And I really like the fact that WeChaseSummer.com is your blog address. I really like the fact that We Chase Summer incorporates them into a lot of your blog entries and talks about the cool things that they get to do. I think that's something that a lot of families would like to do. A lot of even the bloggers that I talk to really wish that they could have a family along with them to see the things that they see and experience these experiences.
When you travel as a family, everything is shared together. You get to do all kinds of great things and a lot of time.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I've read a little bit about your background. Some people have dreams of working for Wall Street and having really lucrative job opportunities like that. You guys decided to kind of turn your back on that and travel a lot. Was that decision something that was hard to come to, and is it like a permanent thing? Are you going to keep traveling, or do you ever see yourselves going back into that kind of workforce full time?
Well, the decision itself wasn't, it wasn't exactly to say that it was hard to come to. Obviously, when you give up security, that's something that, you were accepting a lot of risk. So maybe that was a little bit of a concern for us, just to decide to quit and go. But we really, really wanted to spend time together as a family. And, we researched, over 2 years on and off how we could make it happen. And then we decided that, when the time would come and if everything lined up, we would just do it. So we did try to take sabbaticals from our jobs, but, being the nature of the business that Wall Street is, they weren't really receptive of providing months on end of sabbatical. So we ended up just quitting that way. We told them exactly what we were going to do. We were honest. We said, this is what we want to do. This is a personal goal that we have. So we're going to go. So we did leave on good terms from both of the companies that we used to work for. And like you said, it is a dream job in terms of how much you get paid, but also there is a lot of hours that go into that industry in terms of, working the 12 hours a day was almost for us at times. And then including the fact that we live in the suburbs and, we had to commute to New York City, and there's always something up with the commute. We had about an hour and a half to 2 hours each way for commuting.
Wow.
So that added on a lot to our day. So we ended up seeing the kids for, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours every day. And that really didn't seem like, an optimal choice for us. We wanted to be able to spend a lot more time with the kids. And that, being in that industry didn't really allow us to do that. So that's basically the reason why we decided to quit. It was really the fact that we wanted to spend more time with the kids. And also, we've always wanted to travel. And since we got married, we had these jobs. We could only take so many vacation days. And then we had our first baby, kept working. We had our second baby. So this was, they were 2 and 4 when we left. It was a great time before Kian started kindergarten. So, that all worked out, and that's why we did it.
All right.
Absolutely.
You want to go back to it? I mean, I can announce that we are actually moving pretty shortly. Next month, we're moving down south to North Carolina. So we are actually moving away from the Wall Street lifestyle entirely. We probably will be getting some sort of job in the tech industry, whatever industries we can find down there.
That's really cool. I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't want to bring it up, but you had shared that with me off camera before we started taping. And that's really an awesome place to go. North Carolina, especially the Research Triangle, is a very hot place for tech industry jobs, and there are a lot of cool opportunities there. So we definitely wish you the best in everything you do. That'll be a great new adventure for the whole family, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we've been talking about your kids, Kian and Hannah. Kian is now 5, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, we turned 5 while we were traveling.
Yeah. And Hannah is 3. They're beautiful children. They seem to be, full of life and personality, and I don't even think that, they necessarily understand how cool it is to be able to do the things that you've been helping them to do as young as they are. One of our questions that we wanted to ask you is it difficult to travel with small children, with toddlers? And we all know that, the kids can get impatient or they can have tantrums sometimes. Is that something that has been difficult to deal with, or do you have certain tips for people to avoid that sort of thing?
Well, it is always difficult traveling with kids because they're so unpredictable. They can be happy one minute and they can be crying and breaking down the next, and you just sometimes don't know why. But the best way we, got the kids prepared for everything we were doing was explain to them what was coming up and set their expectations. A lot of times when we had really long flights coming up, we would start telling them weeks in advance, we're going to Vietnam. Flying to Vietnam takes really long time. You cannot be crying or getting upset. You can tell me if there's something that's bothering you, but you can't be screaming on an airplane because, people won't like that. And, nobody wants to listen to a crying kid on an airplane. And so, it was just kind of like we would review it like random places. We could be in the grocery line waiting. It's like, hey, you remember how long it's going to take to get to Vietnam? And they would say, oh, really long time. So they had this, prepared state of mind, if you will. And so that made it a lot easier for us. Also, every day when we wanted to set out, we would tell them what we were doing that day so they knew what's coming up next. That's one of the things that I think kids need. It's, and that's why kids love routines, because they know what's coming up next, so they feel comfortable with the next thing. And then the other thing I would say is the fact that in the beginning when we started, we were doing this slow travel style where we got accommodations through Airbnb, and we had a home or an apartment for an entire month. And then during that month, sometimes we took road trips and went elsewhere and stayed in hotels or hostels. And sometimes we didn't. And this really helped the kids because we always had a home base. So, they within a few days they would start referring to that location as home. Like we would be out and they say, "Oh, when do we go home?" So that really helped also traveling with kids. I mean, they had a home base. They weren't rushed. We didn't have to constantly pack and go, pack and go. And then the other thing I would say is obviously activities. For the road trips that we had, for the flights that we had different types of activities ready for them. Sometimes they did those activities, sometimes they could have cared less. They were tired, they were cranky. But we did art stuff, art projects. I got them sticker books before we were going on long flights. So stories on the iPad. So from Kindle, we have the Kindle app on our iPad. So we bought books for them. And also just some movies on the iPad, and it was just easier for them to watch those movies than the movies that are available on the airplane.
Cool. I was actually going to ask Ali, do you feel that you guys work together well as parents to share the time that you have to sort of supervise the kids? Are there any times when you're like, oh, I just need some time to myself, or maybe that's Hoda who says that, and you take over? How does that work?
We would spend pretty much every waking moment together as a family, but certainly you need some downtime. But I think as a unit, we work very well together. Sometimes it's actually difficult when you have these long plane rides because they seat you maybe 3 people together and then one off to the side.
That is tough.
Quite a few times, so we get stuck in the situation. Well, who's going to be the parent of the 2 kids? While the other one's off watching movies and getting sleep and all this. At first it was me, but some of the shorter flights, at least, I volunteered for that role a couple times. And, I think either one of us can handle it. Obviously, Thomas is his favorite. It's his mom, but I think
Well, which one of you does the most of the preparation, the planning and stuff like that? We wanted to ask you, what kind of steps you do, or maybe some tips that you have for looking for hotels and rental cars and planning your itinerary, where you're going to go, what you're going to see and do. Is that a group thing? Is that one person usually does it?
I'd say we kind of divide and conquer a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you about the typical way we get ready for. I'd say there's really 2 big different planning aspects. There was the initial planning aspect, which was before we even started all this, 6 months plus leading up to this big adventure, we had to do a lot of planning. And that was, I'd say, mostly with me helping at some points, just because our lives at that time. But we can only plan so much. Can't really plan everything, and so we would just kind of we had the basics of the first couple of months planned out. We had flights booked for most first half or so. And beyond that, I'd say we use a variety of tools. We use Airbnb to pick out where we want to live for a while. We use all different kinds of booking websites to find hotels for any sort of road trip that we do. One of the apps that I think we found most helpful was TripIt, which kind of just kept everything consolidated in one place automatically. So for most of what it's not, it's basically receives any sort of confirmation email from airlines, from hotels, from all this stuff, from our rental agencies, and automatically creates this itinerary for you with all the reference numbers and everything. So that's really a very helpful way for us to kind of keep it organized. But I mean, in general, we're not such big planners. Started planning every single aspect of what we're going to be doing every single day. We didn't keep a very set itinerary. I think we mostly knew what we were going to be. We're going to go see the city today. And we would spend time looking up on different websites what there is to see for kids, what's the best places in that general area, and we would just have that in mind, and we would just go.
Sure. And that's a good thing to do, not over planning, because a lot of people will plan too much and try to plan out every hour, and then it becomes very stressful. So that's a good way to do things, I think.
Was going to say, it's just setting yourself up for failure, which then
Yeah.
makes cranky children, which makes angry parents, which then makes for a really bad day. So it's just better you know, like he said, just have a few places in mind. I mean, sometimes we had these places in mind and we would go out and not see a single one of them, and we would just come across something completely different, and that was totally fine. You know, like it's just the experience of it. You can't get upset, you know, about what you end up not seeing that day, or maybe not at all during your trip.
And I think you probably end up with a lot of cool memories that maybe were unexpected. You know, like you say, you see things that you weren't expecting to run into, and you experience things that are maybe better than what you could have planned. So that's awesome. Let me ask you about WeChat Summer. It's a very unique brand name for your blog. You've been travel blogging for almost a year now, and you do it as a journal style. It's like a daily adventure journal. You know, it may be a few days or a few weeks before you cover the trips that you've been on, but people can expect to come back and visit the site from time to time and follow you on social media and find out what you did on another day, wherever you've been visiting. Was We Chase Summer a thing that you came up with together, the name, the term? Is it something that you've always wanted to do? You know, maybe even coming from northeastern United States, it's always nice to be in warm weather when it's wintertime, that's for sure. Tell me more about We Chase Summer and how that came to be.
So the reason why we even started the blog was because once we started telling people that we're going on this big adventure, everyone said, well, how can we follow you? How do we know where you are? And we said, oh, we'll start a blog. And you know, I did like a really quick type of research, and I decided to go with Squarespace versus WordPress. I liked their templates. I liked how clean the templates look. Not too much issues with plugins. So it seemed like a quick and easy way to just get started and start posting things. So we started it. The name, we knew that summer was somehow going to be a part of the name. It was just a matter of, you know, us coming up with the right phrase or the right name. And actually, exactly like you said, the reason why we wanted to stay in summer was because of last winter. Last winter was so cold and snowy, and honestly, this winter is no better now that we're back home. But we just wanted to get away from the cold and just, you know, be nice weather for a while. And we are generally a very outdoorsy family, and we like spending time outside. And so, you know, even though we were trying to make sure we were always staying in summer, as an example, we actually decided not to go to Spain in July and August because we heard that it's so hot that you cannot go out. So we were like, that kind of defeats the purpose. Between like 11 and 4, they were saying you cannot even leave the house, especially with small children, because it gets really hot. So, you know, keeping all of that in mind, we just try to travel when it's always best weather. So, but I mean, in terms of the name, I think we sort of worked together on it, and it just, you know, one day it just kind of came to be. I don't really.
Just accurately describes what we were looking to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I say We Chase Summer when I'm talking to the people at Vroom Vroom Vroom. I say We Chase Summer all the time, and they're like, who? I don't know what you're talking about. But it's an awesome blog, and it's a great brand name, so I really enjoy that. You were mentioning that Spain wouldn't have been a good idea to take your kids because it's so unbearably hot in that time of year. What do you do about choosing destinations? Do you always consider that it has to have some kid-friendly attractions? Is that a big factor in what you do?
Not really. I think what's the most important thing for us, like things for us, would be, you know, is it safe? I think that's the top thing, that the top criteria we would look at. Is it a safe area that we're going to be in? You know, is it a safe country? You know. And then the next would be, you know, how much does it cost, you know, to actually travel to that location? And then the weather. The weather is a big thing. Like, how much outdoor stuff can we do and actually enjoy? Because in the winter you can do plenty of outdoor stuff, but you just have to be really bundled up. And then, you know, just generally what country or, you know, state or whatever draws us to it. Like, really, that's how this whole thing started. For some odd reason, I felt like I was being drawn to south of Spain, and so I started like, before we even went, before we even had plans of going for as long as we did. And it's really odd to say it, but I was just like, I really, really want to get to the Andalusia region and to see those whitewashed houses. And it was just something that I started obsessing over almost. And so that's where it all started. It was just, at first we only meant for it to be Spain and maybe just like a couple of other countries. And then it sort of just grew into being a around the world trip.
And once we knew it was an around the world trip, we knew we wanted to stay in warm weather. That also kind of helped us plan out, generally where we'd be at a specific time, because at first we're leaving in June, July, August. It's a great time to be in Europe. As it starts to get towards September, October, November, start heading south a little bit. Follow the birds, go down. That's what kind of led us to Spain and then over to Asia, Southeast Asia. Obviously, as it gets to time for Northern Hemisphere.
That's awesome. Let me ask you, I asked your kids, I asked Kian and Hannah earlier about their travel experiences and what was kind of their favorite thing to do. Let me ask both of you while we're talking about it. Ali, what was your favorite destination? And then Hoda, if I can ask you as well.
We probably kind of agree with the kids a little bit. Our answers were Ireland and New Zealand. They're actually pretty similar countries, having visited both. But, we stayed on a farm in Ireland, right on the west coast, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. It was a farm that had sheep, that had chicken, that had horses. It was a pretty amazing experience. So I guess I'll stick with Hannah's answer and say, for me, it was Ireland. Close second was probably Spain. I mean, really, to be honest, we didn't have a single bad experience as far as like dislike or even any of the countries.
Yeah, we were lucky, I guess. We really enjoyed everywhere we were. We were a little bit bored in France because we had it was really hard communicating. We don't speak French, and it was just, it probably was the area we were in. It was tough to make friends, for lack of a better word. So, we were a little bit bored, and that's really why we went on that 1 week Italian road trip. But I mean, for me, I would say, like Ali said, I don't think we had a single bad experience. I mean, even countries like Vietnam, which is not exactly something that people would pick immediately, maybe, I don't know. But I thought it was very, very unique experience. And when we went to Thailand, I thought, at first I was like, oh, this is so nice and so different, because we were in Vietnam first, then we went to Thailand. But really, the area we were in Thailand, we were in northern Thailand, it's very westernized. So at one point, you're just like, oh, this is kind of like, everybody speaks English, everything's written in English. So it kind of takes away from that uniqueness of, cultural experience that we had in Vietnam. But for me, personally, I think my favorite place, aside from living on the farm in Ireland, was New Zealand. I mean, we've never traveled in a motorhome before. And I was terrified. I was like, I don't know how to do, what we're going to do with this thing, not to mention that it was stick shift, not to mention it was driving on the wrong side of the road. So, all of those were kind of big concerns. And once you get inside and the thing starts driving, I mean, I actually did not drive it ever. I drove the entire time. But you kind of have this sense oh my gosh, I'm in a huge truck. And it's you're going around bends, and there are places in New Zealand where you just kind of go in a corkscrew up a mountain or down a mountain, and it was interesting. And I just didn't know how the whole self-containment works, but it was a lot easier than I thought. It was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it would be. I mean, we're big into camping, but we've just done tent camping before. So this was great. I mean, we were inside, sort of protected against all the elements. Even though one night we were parked right by the beach and the winds were so strong that I woke up and I was like, should we move this thing? Are we going to tip over? And I was worried the entire time. But it was great. And in New Zealand, I mean, I feel like the country is designed for that kind of travel, which makes it a lot more enjoyable. So we stayed at plenty of free sites. We used this app called Campermate, which is great. It's free. Tells you all about, freedom camping places, also places you have to pay to stay. And along the way tells, people give thumbs up to attractions that they've liked seeing. So
I did want, this gives me a good opportunity though to plug that VroomVroomVroom was the company that you chose to rent your camper van through for New Zealand. We definitely want to tell all of our readers and remind them that you can rent camper vans through all of our VroomVroomVroom sites, especially New Zealand. It's a wonderful place to go in a camper van because, as you were saying, there are a lot of free camping parks and a lot of opportunities to just drive on beautiful roads out in the countryside. And I guess I want to ask you both, in a sense, was it fun compared to other places you've been where you weren't driving in a camper? And is that the longest road trip you've ever been on in the sense that you were, as Hoda said, self-contained?
Yeah, it was definitely the longest road trip we've ever been on.
yeah.
By far. We drove on the South Island alone. I think it was something over around 2,500 kilometers.
Wow.
2 weeks trek around the entire outside of the island, except for the very north part of the South Island. But, we were there for a long time, and it, like Hoda said, I fell in love with it. It was something that when we were leaving, the kids were so upset because they couldn't keep staying in that camper van.
Yeah.
So we all decided that we definitely want to do that again. Time probably we'll do it somewhere in the States, like a camper van, and see a lot more of the U.S. I've kind of just seen the outside of the U.S., just like we saw the outside of New Zealand, but we'll probably at some point somewhere in the future rent a camper van and just see what else is out in the middle.
Very cool. It sounds like it was a really cool experience for your whole family, but also for you guys to get to drive so far. I mean, that's a huge road trip, and it's also a wonderful thing to be able to say that you've been all over the South Island. And I think after that, you went to the North Island, and then I think you even spent some time in Australia. Is that right?
That's right. In the North Island, we didn't end up having the camper van, which we missed every single day, because one of the great things about having the motorhome was that we could eat anytime we wanted. We just pull over, make food. We had enough groceries in our pantries and in the fridge, and even if we knew we were going to get somewhere late at night, we would just pull over, have our dinner, make dinner, have dinner. Sometimes we'd even pull out the picnic table that came with the motorhome with the chairs and everything, and we'd just have our food, and then we would get on with it. But in the North Island, where we just had a tiny car, we had to worry about the time we were going to eat and the restaurant we had to eat at, because generally the hotel meals are very expensive. So yeah, and then after that we went to Australia, and we were in Sydney for some time, and we drove up to the Gold Coast for a weekend, and then we came back and we were in Sydney for the remainder of the time.
Awesome, awesome. I guess my final question for you guys today, what does 2015 look like for We Chase Summer? Are you planning any big trips? Do you know where you're going to go? And can you share some of that with us?
I think that since we spent the last year traveling, and one of the reasons why we are not one of those families that will travel forever and ever, is that we realized, how important it is for the kids to have these relationships, like form relationships, make friends. And that's a really big thing, and that can't happen unless you're in one place, for a while. And we all know that in order to have good friends, you have to kind of be in touch with them, and I actually have to build the relationship. Aside from that, Kian is going to start kindergarten, so that for us, it's important for him to not be absent from school. And then just in terms of, we're also moving, so that's another big thing in our life. So between Kian starting kindergarten and them going back to making friends again, and going to birthday parties, and just be like a regular kid, because as great as it is for a kid to travel and know geography really well, they're still kids. So we want them to obviously remember that they did this travel and spend so much time with mom and dad, but also have friends from their childhood, and be able to work on the things they like. Kian likes art, so he'll probably do some art classes. We want to try to have Hannah do some gymnastics maybe, or that kind of a thing. So with all that said, I think our traveling for 2015 will most likely be limited to just us traveling within the US. and I don't really know how far and wide we'll go, but we'll definitely go on some camping trips for sure. And then the rest of it we'll just figure out as time goes by.
Well, I want to recommend, as a former Tennessean, if you, and I'm assuming you will, move to the Research Triangle in North Carolina, you need to head west. You need to go to the Great Smoky Mountains, and you need to visit Cades Cove. You need to visit Gatlinburg. You need to take the kids to Dollywood. These are great attractions, and I grew up there, and I swear it's my home, but I love it, and it's a wonderful area. So check out the Great Smoky Mountains if you get a chance.
Absolutely.
We've been to Asheville.
Oh yeah, beautiful part of the country, beautiful.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Looking forward to camping out and just having a U.S. style adventure for the next.
Maybe get another camper van, but just for a couple of days, not for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been wonderful talking to you, and it was wonderful talking to Kian twice, as well as talking to Hannah. We loved discussing things with you today and learning more about your travel blog. We definitely want to give you the opportunity to tell our readers, and we'll include links about your social media. Where can people follow you other than WeChaseSummer.com?
Well, we actually have been lucky enough to be able to keep the We Chase Summer name and all our social media accounts. So on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. They're all. It's just for all of them. It's just We Chase Summer. So it's easy enough for anyone to find us.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely put the links down below in the blog article as well as in the YouTube video when we get this posted online. Guys, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. I know it's kind of snowy there where you're at, so maybe this was comfortable to be inside where it's warm. I'm really glad to talk to you, and we were very proud that you chose to book your camper van for New Zealand with Vroom Vroom Vroom. Stay in touch with us, you guys, and we're going to keep reading your blog articles, especially when you're posting the ones about Australia, and we've greatly enjoyed the ones about New Zealand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly a great experience for us using Vroom Vroom Vroom. I think probably may have been the only site that we really actively just started talking about because of such an easy to use site. I mean, we went to other camper van websites. This one kind of considered everything from works that we needed to at a great price. So.
Well, thank you. We try to keep it as easy as we can. In fact, a lot of people surveyed have said that they could book in under 2 minutes. So it's simple, and it compares a whole lot of opportunities and different prices for different vehicles. Whatever you need, we have it. So thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Guys, y'all have a good afternoon, and it was nice talking to you.
Thanks. Bye.